What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another MD Fish Tanks build video. Today we're going to be doing a shallow tank using terrestrial ferns for one of my better fish. So yeah, we've got a nice little tank here. It's obviously not a huge volume, but we don't need it to be. At the end of the day, it's way big enough for a better fish. Now sometimes shallow tanks, I'll put my hand there for reference to you guys, they're actually really difficult to get some kind of good composition because there's not a lot going on, like, you know, height wise, so you tend to want to come out of the tank, and that's what we're going to do today as well. This light isn't massively powerful either, but again, I've grown plants really well with it. And it's enough. You're not going to be able to grow like complicated plants that need highlighting and CO2, that kind of thing. But also, because it's so not massively powerful, it means you don't really get any algae either, which is a massive bonus. But it does mean you need to keep the underwater plants quite simple. It can grow dwarf hairgrass. I know that because I've done it before with these kind of bulbs at that distance. So I'm going to give that a go. So what the root tabs, well the crushed root tabs are going to do is just provide a really good base level of nutrients for a long time. Now on top of that we can put our aquasoil. I'll still bank it up to the back like usual, but it's going to have even more nutrients for that hairgrass. And because we've got the lower lighting, but not too low, lower, we won't get much algae either. There will be a bit, but we can deal with that as we go along. There's always a bit. There we have a boring box of aquasoil. I always think it's such a boring start. I love using stones and gravel mainly, but sometimes you've got to try, you know, different things. It always looks awful at this stage. Let's put some character in there. Let's get some rocks in that we can use for the framework then for the wood to sit on that will come out of the water, which eventually the plants will be attached to. So first of all, we're just going to get some stones in that I can put the rocks on top of. They'll act as like the framework, if you like, and then we can pour some soil in the gaps as well, just so we don't get any nasties getting caught in there as well. So I've actually got a load of rocks in this bucket here, locally sourced. Look at them, look at the character on them, nice dark colouring, but not as dark as the soil, do you know what I mean? So they will stand out and look good with, I think, all the hair grass around them as well. Let's try these. So yeah, as usual guys, at this point I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just getting something in there so I can start that wood area. It gives it something to sort of lock onto, and then we can just completely adjust it as we go along. It might look completely different to this by the time we're done. Okay, I'm liking that. I'm liking the idea of that. Anyway, I just need it over more because I need something coming off in that direction as well to give us that platform for the plants to sit on. So, oh, that looks like a duck. We don't want that. Otherwise, it's just going to be the duck tank, isn't it? But yeah, bring the whole lot across a little bit, probably about to there. We've just got enough room for a little offshoot that way. Right, I think that's looking pretty good so far, but I've just had an idea. Why don't I just take out like this section here and make it like a beached area, and then I'll just add a little bit of variety to it. I think that might look really good, or it might be really annoying and the soil will keep going in it, but it's okay, I can deal with that later on. Yeah, I think I'll just give it a go. I've never done it before, so why not? Click subscribe. Oh yeah, there we go. I think that'll work really well. So just fill it up now with like a nice little sand and then some coarser bits of gravel around the edges, which will also sort of help block any of the soil coming through as well. So that looks not very good at the moment, but trust me, it will do once everything else is in with it and you've got the green around it, a few little plants on the edges, you know, tiny little bits of Anubias petite and that kind of thing. It will look really good, trust me. Right, next up we need to fill out this back area because this is where I want all of the immersed plants going. Immersed means plants that grow out of the water, so like the root system's in the water and then the actual plant is out the top, and that's obviously the ferns. So to do that I need to build it up using some gravel. Now I've done it before with the gravel that's actually attached to it at the moment. It worked really well. It's a coarse gravel and it just allows the roots to sort of go in and amongst it all and find its own way into the soil, into the water column, and it works really well. And this is the gravel here, look, so you can see nice and coarse. It's clean because I've used it in a previous setup, but it works so good. Okay, so that's our main sort of structure sorted. All that's left to do now is start planting. Now I think what I first want to do is get that top section in, because then I can fill up with water and it won't disturb it all. Whereas if I put it in with the water on top, it's probably going to leach soils and things all in. It will do anyway, of course, but I mean like not so messily. I don't know what I'm saying. So over here in this tank is where I've got my ferns. Now I've got a little bowl here, look, got some water in, and we've got a root mass, a mass of roots, sorry, and then the different ferns on the top. Look, so this is a certain type of fern, it stays kind of thin like that. And then this one here is the shuttlecock fern. Look at how nice that is. That's a new leaf, I think, as well. Well, not new, but like recent. We've got some dwarf at the bottom, but that's normal with ferns. You know, bits come and go. But look at all those roots. Those are the ones that can all just sit in the water pulling up nutrients. So yeah, we can just plonk this straight on top as well. Now, getting the fern to develop roots that will grow in the water is super easy. First of all, get some aquasoil, mix some water with it and squeeze it together, and it makes kind of like a soil paste. I then put the soil paste on top of some filter floss. This creates like a bed of nutrients. It's important this sits above the water, but not so high that it can't get moisture from it. So that's where the filter floss comes in. It draws up the water like a wick and keeps the soil moist. You can also see at the back there I've got some paper sort of cups. That's what our ferns actually sit in once we've removed most of the soil from the root system. What we need to do next is take our ferns, break off most of the soil so we're left with like a little pocket, if you like. Now this pocket is then what we place in those cups that we had before. This then means that everything is pretty much joined together organically for water to be able to travel between the two. Then what happens is the roots from the ferns interlock with everything and it becomes like one solid unit. That's why I can now pick it up and move it wherever I want. So just thinking about it, I think a good idea would just be to pour a load of aquasoil all over the top of this gravel area before we put the roots from the ferns on top. Just give it some extra nutrients and something else to bind to and lock everything in. Oh yeah, that's looking great. I don't think I want to do any more than that. I like that. Maybe a bromeliad or something, but what I will want to do is cover up this area with mosses. So I need to fill in that gap there at the back that you can see, fill that right up with aquasoil, and over this side as well. Then we can lay mosses on top of it and they'll grow really good on there as well. Oh, I'm absolutely loving it. Right, next up, we want to get our aquatic plants in. And as I said before, we're going to be using dwarf hairgrass, but I've got it in pots. You've got to split it all up first. I'll show you how to do that. So this right here is my little store area for plants. All these ones are in pots that like just normal sort of plant pots. They've got a lid on the top and, you know, it's a very moist environment for them. And then the hairgrass look we've got here is in these little cups. Oh, I just drop one, never mind. And they've got like a gel or a liquid in the bottom that's got like nutrients for them. So we need to take them out and split them up before we can plant them. So this is really easy to do. All you've got to do is peel back the lid, take the hairgrass out and just drain off all that liquid. You don't want to get all of that in your tank because it's so full of nutrients you'll get algae. Then you want to split the hairgrass from the edge and unsort of wrap it so it goes out flat. take out the middle section. At this point you just break it off into smaller sections, and I roll it between my fingers to create little plugs, and it's just so much easier to plant it this way. Oh yeah, there we go. Right, so dwarf hairgrass, when it's like in a tank like this with no water at all, dries out quickly. So I'm going to fill it up to where we want it to be, and then I can see if I want to add any more plants as well. I'm thinking some nice Liliopsis brasiliensis in this corner, just to give it some height, and maybe over this side as well, just poking out. I think that'll look really good. But first of all, just fill it up to the level we want, which is going to be about here. This should be perfect because two reasons. One, we don't want to flood that whole sort of root system too much on the top part of the fern, and two, this point here is where my betta fish is currently at and has never jumped, and I'm really happy with that height. Some betta fish jump, some don't. Luckily the ones I've got at the moment, none of them jump. So don't just assume your betta fish doesn't jump. Now when I get a new fish, I normally start with the water level really low and just bring it up steadily and just sort of see how it goes. But a good inch below, and I've found it to be pretty decent and never had any problems with it like that. But again, it's completely fish dependent. Right, looking really good, we're getting there now. I have completely forgot though to leave a space here for my filter, so I'm going to take out those two tufts. I'll probably put them there, somewhere in the foreground, and then I can slide the filter in. So this filter here is actually a surface skimmer from Eheim, and you would normally have that on the top and it skims the surface, but obviously that's not possible in a shallow tank, so it works so well. I first saw about this at Aquarium Gardens. They had it on one of their shallow tanks, but how good does that look? To be honest though, I could swap that out for a bit of black foam and I think it will look a bit better as well. Okay, that looks much better already. The other really good thing is that the flow on this is variable, because at the moment that's really fast for a betta fish. So I can turn that right down and the fish will be absolutely fine. Right, next up it's time to start getting some mosses in this top section here, and I know just a place to get them. So I'm in an area of the woods near where I live that I know's got some really nice mosses in. Although I came here last time in the winter, it's now summer and it's looking a bit dry at the moment. Hopefully they're still there. Oh yes, this is exactly what I'm after. Look at that. That's such a nice colour as well, isn't it? Perfect. Right, so this is on just like a fallen piece of wood. Don't take more than you need. That's always the rule. It'll grow back in no time at all, obviously. But yeah, looking great. How good is that looking? Really loving that. But I want to do one more thing. I've got a little trick up my sleeve. Down here, look, I've got this stuff which is called Terra Tape. Basically, it's really absorbent for like the water. So I can basically run it up there and it'll make that water just travel up, which means I can then put moss on top of it. The moss will stay moist and will continue to like grow, wrap around the wood and look great. So I think you're supposed to sort of twist it and wrap it around, but I only want like one strip, so I'm just going to glue it down gently, then lay the moss on top with a little bit more glue. And as always, I'm using the Gorilla Super Glue Gel. This is the cyanoacrylate, all safe for fish and plants. So I'm really pleased with how the tanks turned out, but there's a few things we need to do beforehand before we're ready for fish. First of all, dechlorinate the water if you haven't already. I've already done that. Second thing is we need to remember that this tank isn't cycled at all. I haven't used media from another setup, so it's a fresh start. Now when starting a tank like this, I like to use beneficial bacteria when you first put the fish in, and then every day I start doing about a 50% water change. What this means is that the tank can never build up toxins because you're always cleaning it, if you like, with dechlorinated tap water. I also re-top up the beneficial bacteria each time. I'll do this for about a week to a week and a half, testing water levels then at this point just to make sure everything's going great. If it is, I can then every other day, every third day, and so on and so forth. This is called a fish-in cycle. I've done it hundreds of times now with no problem. You have to make sure you've got a testing kit available though, because you do need to come in and check that the ammonia levels are staying down, and you need to be willing to change that water every single day for at least a few weeks. Right, without further ado, let's get our fish in. So it was at this point that I decided the flow was too strong for our fin friend. I could just see he wasn't moving too comfortably and kept trying to hide into sort of areas with dead flow. Even in the open areas that are far away from the filter, it still didn't look completely comfortable. Some people have been concerned that there's some fin rot going on the anal fin of my betta fish. Don't worry, I've had him for over 6 months. It's always looked like that. He's happy, all good. So I attached an extra piece of filter foam to the outlet of the surface skimmer. I'd estimate it's reduced the flow by about 50%, and the betta fish is absolutely comfortable now. You can just see it's not struggling to swim, and it can even swim directly in front of the flow. A couple of key points to address. The Aquasoil that I'm using in this tank doesn't leach any ammonia, so we don't have to worry about that adding to the mix. If yours does, you need to wait before you can add fish. I think it's quite a long waiting time. I wouldn't know for sure because I've not actually used it before. The second thing is, my room is heated, which means I don't need a heater in a tank for the fish. If yours isn't, then you'll need the appropriate heater for the betta fish's needs.